everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What's up, you ducks? It's all in football. Jake Ciely, stepmom Lauren. We are week 2 football. 1 week in the books. First week of a real waiver show. As everybody probably knows by now, Lauren got to taste the, not cranky Jake, but busy Jake, as trying to answer 100 comments before the show started. If you want to go check the link, by the way, and check out all the waiver pieces we're going to be talking about over there. It's all theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals, and you can get a first month free. So you can see all the waivers for free. That's what it is, Lauren. It's like everybody always tells me when I join the Athletic podcast too, when I'm sitting there, we're like, this is how they imitate me. I come on, they're like, hey, how's it going, blah, blah, blah. They're like, hey, Jake, how's it going? I just like, because I'm just focused on other things. I'm sorry that you got to see my side focus version where, like, because I think, what did you add? You said something about my t-shirt, and I was like, no, it's not 80s. And you went, okay. Like, wasn't that your response?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not wrong, though, Jake. I mean, so, producer extraordinaire, Tino and I were just chit-chatting, having a grand old Tuesday morning. And then, Mr. Sunshine pops in here and we're like, hey, how you doing? Fine. Oh, look, I'm wearing an 80s t-shirt, rainbow bright. And you're like, Scooby-Doo is not the 80s. I'm like, wow, you are crusty.
Not crusty, focused on answering everybody's questions to like as many as possible. I'm trying. Last year, for heads up, I'm doing my best. Last year was 1,000 comments from weeks 1 through 11. Not till week 12 did it finally break the mark. But so I'm trying. I'm answering all your questions. We're going to try to get to some of yours today. There's already 10 or plus already in here, so we're trying. Thank you. Your name doesn't even have its JRCH. You're missing like vowels in here. But anyway, LFG Ducks. Tino are also like, he's like, all right, Jake, whatever. He's apparently mad about, I got my ODU Taylor Haneke jersey behind me, and he seems upset about that. So we'll have to talk about that and figure out why after the show. But I had to represent Heineke and represent ODU. Have the hat on too. Zach Pascal. We're going to be talking about him. But real quick version, because nobody really cares, Lauren, but I care a little bit. How was your week 1? How was week 1 that is now in the books?
It was good. In my own personal leagues, I am over 500 on the win column, which is good. Won a couple bucks in DFS, which is also very nice. But what I really want to put that big check mark by is I did pretty well giving out advice. Week 1 is always very weird. So it's incredibly difficult to try to understand what defenses are doing or not doing. And I mean, if you want to just put all of that into one little example, Aaron Rodgers, weird. Okay, this is the kind of weird stuff that happens on week 1, but I feel the advice I gave to my fellow friends who asked for some, I feel that a majority of those panned out, which to me is the most important part of fantasy football, is helping y'all. Yeah,
I don't know if you tuned in yesterday, if anybody missed it. I actually got up while talking to Chris Meany and ran a lap around the house because I was victory lapping on a lot of my guys. I did miss on some, and we're going to talk about a lot of these things, but let's right off the bat, Lauren, we've got the 49ers situation, and it started even before we even got to the game because it was Trey Sermon was a healthy and active, which took everybody by shock, including Matt Barrows, who asked Shanahan after the game and said, we talked about this briefly yesterday, but we talked about the fact that he said the entire preseason, everything told us, and your even usage told us Trey Sermon was number 2. What happened? And his answer was, there's no running back hierarchy. So week 1, what do we get? We get Elijah Mitchell going off for 100 yards. We get 1 basic carry from Hasty where he got a touchdown in there, but we don't care much about Hasty. It really comes down to Mitchell/Sermon. We've gone through Shanahanigans multiple times. But at the same time, we know what a running back, any running back, I usually joke about this, Lauren. I said he has the Midas touch of running backs. Like, he could turn me into a quality running back. I don't think it would be more than like 2 yards a carry, if that, probably 1, and then I would die. But he can do it because he's Shanahan. I'm baffled by the fact the NFL hasn't figured out his running game, that nobody can stop his running backs. But that being said, if you're going after Mitchell, how hard are you going here? And is there a concern in your back of your mind that Sermon could still end up the lead any given week?
I am going after Mitchell pretty hard. And yes, there is concern about Trey Sermon. So I know that may be a little bit counterintuitive there, that sentence. It's not
No, they don't have to
oxymoronish,
be
I
mutually
swear.
exclusive.
So, right. So basically, my thought process is on this. Just like you said, Kyle Shanahan knows how to produce award-winning running backs, which I want a piece of. Now, we already have a known quantity here with Raheem Mostert being out at least 8 weeks. That is something that I understand. It is something that I know. So I can count on the fact that they're going to have somebody else besides him on the field. And 19 carries, over 100 yards, and a touchdown for Elijah Mitchell. I don't think they're just going to bench him after that kind of performance. So I know that he's going to be getting involved. I also know that Trey Sermon is getting involved because this is the epitome of an RBBC, the running back by committee in San Francisco. So yes, I'm slightly concerned about, Trey Sermon, because there'll be some weeks where it's a Trey Sermon game, and then there's going to be other weeks where it's an Elijah Mitchell game. But for me, I know that he is going to be on the field, and that is what I want when I'm going after players on the waiver wire, especially if I'm spending fab. I want to make sure that they're going to be on there for a significant amount of time so that I can get some points out of them. And take some Pepto when I'm not sure who is going to be actually the RB1 for a given week, which we never know with them.
And that's really what it comes down to. So I tell people all the time in the waiver column, is like, I don't want to tell you the fab to spend, the percentage to spend, because couple reasons. You know your league aggressiveness better than I do. You know what, like a typical league. I've actually seen people say in the comments, like, my league goes crazy. In week 2, I've seen running backs go for 60%. And then you have some leagues where it's like, hey, nobody ever spends more than the teens. So that's part of it. And then 2, you know your need more than I do. Like, there's a big difference between, and I said this in the column, there's a difference between if your number 2 running back is Chase Edmonds versus your number 2 running back is, I don't know, Nick Chubb, because you went running back to start or something like that. That's a difference in what you need. So this is how I broke it down, Lauren. And you can tell me if you think this is a fair assessment or if you need to go higher for these. Basically, I gave tiers, so to speak. So I gave you 4 scenarios. I was about to say 3. I gave you 4. Your RB2 isn't in the top 25, so like in Edmonds. I said you have to probably go 40% plus. Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah,
you think
I would
50%?
say, 40% simply because it's only week 2. So 40% there for me feels right.
Okay, so then I said if your RB2 is a low-end top 25, but your depth is slim, then I say 30 to 40%.
Yeah.
A little pricey? You sound a little hesitant.
Again, fab is so much like trade situations where it's like, I can trade Kyler Murray for, CMC or something, and I have no idea what is going on in the background. So I'm listening to what you're saying. Well, see, that's
part of it
here.
too. See, part of it too is I said at worst case scenario, you have trade value with Mitchell. And that's the thing. So that's why I said now if your RB2 is low end, but you have good depth, 20 to 30%. And if your RB2 is good and you have good depth, go 15 to 25%. And if you miss on them, you miss on them. If you get them, you can, again, trade that depth, because that's the biggest thing is everybody's going crazy. I can tell you from the comments, everybody's going crazy thinking that Elijah Mitchell is potentially a top 15 running back. I say potentially because, well, here's why. And you just made the face for everybody that's only listened to the podcast version. So the truth is Mostert was top 10 plenty of times. Actually, when we got the news that Sermon was out, I put Mostert in the top 10 because facing the Lions. There you go. And that's the upside here. The Sermon, I think that's the second part we have to answer here. Do you think Sermon is still a factor? Because I still think Sermon's the better 3-down running back, especially in pass blocking, which is key here. I think Elijah Mitchell is more explosive, but I drew some similarities to Tevin Coleman and kind of a one-cut runner because he carries the ball a lot like Tiki Barber. Emory Hunt pointed that out when he came out of college, and that kind of creates that upright one-cut style. So big plays can definitely happen, but as you noted before we even came on the show, if you I hate people who argue this. I'm not arguing to take away the one play. That's part of his game. Let me make that clear. But let's also evaluate if you do take away that one run, it was like 3 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was there a question in there that I missed?
I mean, kind of. It was just the Sermon factor of it. Do you think?
Yes,
let's put it this way. Do you think we could walk into week 3 or 4 and all of a sudden Sermon is the lead, getting 60%
Absolutely.
of the work?
Absolutely. Okay. This is the problem with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan for fantasy football, not for real football, but for fantasy. We really don't know who is going to be that crazy, it's your week running back. It could be Elijah Mitchell. It could be Trey Sermon. And we don't know when that's going to be. However, usually they're both on the field at the same time, which I do like. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not saying go out and blow all your fab for Elijah Mitchell, because you need to temper expectations and have a realistic view on what the 49ers do with their backfield. However, because Mostert is hurt and he's not going to be back for 8 weeks, I think Elijah Mitchell is going to be involved, but this is going to be a flip-flop waffle game between him and Trey Sermon. So if you got Trey Sermon, good for you. If you want to get Elijah Mitchell, go for it, but it's not going to be this Derrick Henry type person who is constantly getting the rock every single week. Just know that going into it.
Heads up going in. All right, so let's move. You know what? Let me make sure we don't have any Elijah Mitchell questions here because actually, and I will throw some out at you. Let's see. Hype in the chat. Yeah, I would hopefully. It's a thumbs up, please. Thumbs up, subscribe, review, 5 stars, all that good stuff. It's just more reviews and more good stuff. We can get more free shows. You get on the BetsTV Network, by the way. So lots of shows on, including Chris Meany has Mean Streets every single day. A lot of other good stuff. Check out the entire channel. So let's see. Anybody on the list? I'm live scrolling here. Oh, here. Well, since Heineke is behind me, I'll save that one. I'll get to Matthew Bingham in a second.
Oh, hey,
So, here's the one. So, first waiver spot for shifting currents, if you can see that one, Tino, at 11:04. Do I use the first waiver spot on Elijah Mitchell and drop Eckler's handcuff? Some scenarios into 2 leagues. So, 2-part question here, Lauren, is I'm taking Elijah Mitchell with the first waiver priority no matter what. I understand people want to hold that, but what are you holding it for? You're hoping for an Elijah Mitchell type situation, even if it goes belly up. And even if 2 weeks from now we're like, damn it, it's Sermon, you would make the same waiver 1 priority in week 7 if this happens. So do it now, and you're more likely to get back to that number 1 spot now because it is week 2 and you're going to have people use their waiver priority. And again, use Elijah Mitchell for trade value purposes. The second part, drop for Eckler's handcuff. I don't think we know Eckler's handcuff. Like through week 1, it was Larry. Yeah, it was Larry. It looked like Larry Roundtree, but we've seen Justin Jackson. To like this one, I would put it this way, and the reason I wanted to bring up that second part is I don't want Mark Ingram, so let's bring Mark into the conversation because he's the next one up. Mark Ingram, so many carries. I wanted nothing to do with this backfield, and they're not going to blow out every single team. They're not going to face Jacksonville every single week, but Mark Ingram was the lead. And I would still drop the backup in the Chargers to go get Ingram, even though I don't really want Ingram, Lauren.
No, why? Don't do that. That's garbage. Okay, real quick question. Elijah Mitchell, because you said, I just want to point this out because you said, oh no, it might be Trey Sermon. But then the following week, it could be Elijah Mitchell again. Always remember that. If you get him, hang on to him and see what happens because their schedule is muy juicy. They've got Philadelphia, they've got Green Bay, and then they have Seattle. So there is opportunity here for both of those backs to get involved. So next week, maybe a Trey Sermon. The week after that could be Elijah Mitchell. You just don't know. And when it comes to Mark Ingram, this is nerve-wracking for me, and I knew this was going to happen, not to like toot my own horn here, but I knew this was going to happen with the Texans. When you have Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson, and Mark Ingram, and everyone else who's an AARP-eligible running back on the Houston Texans, with someone like Tyrod Taylor, who that is a question mark still, even after a very solid Week 1 performance, which running back is it going to be? I don't know, because all 3 of those guys are healthy, and David Johnson is explosive, guaranteed. That's a little bit more in the passing game. I understand that. And Mark Ingram had an explosive game, but who's to say that this isn't going to be the David Johnson game next week? So for me, if I had to choose between Ingram, and Elijah Mitchell, I think I'm going to go Mitchell on this one.
100% on that one.
I'm staying away from Mark Ingram. I'm staying away from it because I don't know what is going on in Houston at all. So I am
hold on, because this is where I was going. I was saying Mark Ingram over Larry Roundtree or Justin Jackson.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I was still focused on Trey Sermon being a thing with Elijah Mitchell. But yeah, okay. Yeah, because we don't know who it is. And don't forget, Josh Kelly was also a healthy scratch. So we agree. Congratulations.
Oh, there you go. Well, look at Mark Ingram getting some love on the show. Mark Ingram. I'll fire through real quick. Should I trade Amari Cooper for A.J. Brown? I don't see a point there, mostly because if it's a wash trade, there's something that could come out better. Like I would even say, let's take Amari Cooper. Should I trade Amari Cooper? And I know you weren't asking this, the person who did ask, but like Amari Cooper for Aaron Jones. You're just trading a wide receiver 1 for an RB1. You still come out net neutral. So if you need running back more, maybe, but I look for, are you helping your situation? And in that one, that's not even a real buy low, and A.J. Brown and real sell high. They're not that far apart. So I look for a little bit better if you want to sell high on Amari
Cooper was a huge target leader from week 1. So don't forget that.
And now no Michael Gallup, which
Right.
Cedric Wilson steps in, and he's way down the waiver list for that. I didn't even put him on the show. So the outlook, I don't put this up there. Matthew Bingham, what's your outlook on Heineke with the quarterback situation? Help or hurt McLaurin? What does it do to make McKissick after a nothing burger in week 1? So this is what I broke down, Lauren. Let's see if you're on the same page. Heineke is aggressive, but in the run game, like he's dangerous. This is part of the reason he's getting hurt is because he DGAFs, but like not the Jay Cutler version where he's just throwing the ball all over the place and it's like, I don't care if I get an interception. It's him going out there to do everything he possibly can to win a game because let's be honest about it. Even I can rep ODU and all that type of stuff. I watched Heineke in college, but all this stuff it's like he's a limited quarterback for the NFL. This is why he's been around for 7 years, was in the XFL. He's back now, and it's a great story. I feel great for him, but he knows his limitations too, and that's why he goes out there. So what I will say, McLaurin's quarterback, what's the word I'm looking for?
Proof.
Not proof. No, I was gonna say there was a different word I was trying to think about. Quarterback proof is a good one. It's a synonym for proof. Immune is what I was gonna go with. Quarterback immune.
I like that. Yes.
So quarterback immune was what I was gonna say about McLaurin. And what it comes down to is I think McKissick can come back to having some relevancy, somewhat like James White. And I think Logan Thomas is fine. I've seen people worry about Logan Thomas, but with no Curtis Samuel, it's McLaurin and Thomas. And now the real upside is maybe you get some value back to McKissick.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I wouldn't worry too much here, Matthew Bingham. Hey, tell your wifey hi for me. But I wouldn't worry too much here because we're talking about a week 1. Don't go too far into an overreaction theater here because there still is going to be a need for McKissick. It just did not happen in week 1. So don't freak out too much about that. And I 100% agree with you, Jake. Let's go team. High five.
High five. Is Edmonds a good buy low? No, I am completely off Edmonds. To reiterate something we said on the show a lot, that is the split to expect. It's James Conner and Chase Edmonds and about a 50-50. More Edmonds in the passing game, more Conner in the lead, and at the goal line, got the majority of the goal line touches. So there's a quick one. Elijah Mitchell, 30% fab. Would you drop Jamal Williams? No. He's needy at backs. But, his backs are Eckler, Harris, and Jamal Williams. I'd find a wide receiver to drop. Would you not?
I would because I like all of those running backs. I mean, Jamal Williams did a great job with, Jamal Williams, because I wanted to make sure the J. Williams always gets me. Jamal Williams did a great job with DeAndre Swift still active and seeing a solid workload. They both scored above 20 points in PPR. So I'm not worried about Jamal Williams in that kind of a timeshare committee. Thank goodness. So you have Austin Eckler, Damian Harris, and Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I'd drop a
Are
wide
you really
receiver.
that needy at backs?
I mean, if those are your only 3.
Only 3.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, then I would drop a wide receiver for sure.
Yeah, find one. So there's no question there. Tim Patrick, Christian Kirk, or Emmanuel Sanders. So let's jump down to this, and we'll kind of circle around here. So Adam is the one. No, wrong one.
This a lot.
Trick Chitino is the next one down. Although Tim Patrick's in there, that's why I was going to bring him up. But you can take his question off. So basically, let's talk about. So Jerry Jeudy was torching the Giants defense. So 2 things I want to bring to this conversation, Lauren, for everybody out there, because I've been getting a lot of what's wrong with Courtland Sutton? Should have been concerned about Courtland Sutton, blah, 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 blah. So first part, the Giants game. The Giants secondary is a top-end unit. Let's be honest about when you're talking about Bradbury and Adoree Jackson as your top 2 corners, that's better than most teams in the NFL. You could argue they're top 10, probably even have some arguments they're top 5. The one flaw that they have is they're a little slow. And you saw that. And the thing is that's why they'll lock down a Sutton type. They'll lock down Julio Jones now at this point of his career. I say lock down to agree. You understand what I'm saying. If Kenny Golladay wasn't on the team and was facing them, where they're exploitable is Jerry Jeudy types. The quick routes, they can get you on your heels. They can't keep up. I mean, you saw Melvin Gordon run away from Bradbury at the end of the game. That's your testament to where they're lacking the speed in the secondary.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, when did he get so incredibly fast? What happened?
It's just that's what
I'm saying.
I know,
He wasn't fast, but he looked like DK Metcalf fast in that clip. And I'm like,
he just ran away from all of them, but especially Bradbury. So that's the first part. Not worried at all about Sutton. But I will say this, keep this in mind going forward when you have receivers facing the Giants. You want the Judy types. The Sutton ones can probably still do some work, but lesser version of that. So now Judy's out, Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler. See a lot of people going crazy for Tim Patrick. Understandable. We need a number 2 here. Tim Patrick's done it before. I don't know where you stand on this, Lauren, but I'm putting in the same bid for both of them because I'm okay if I get Hamler. And I'm keeping the bid low on Patrick because I think Hamler's a good backup plan because where did Judy spend 70% of the time in that game? In the slot. That's not where Patrick is more outside, although he can play the slot. Hamler can do a lot of work. Now, the snaps need to come up, but I think there's a higher ceiling with Hamler.
I don't know. See, this is going to depend on what it is that your roster needs. So if you need a warm body that could give you a bit of a safer floor, I might want to lean on that Tim Patrick side, whereas a higher ceiling may be that KJ Hamler. But I do agree with you. If you really aren't sure which one of those 2 wide receivers that you would want to go for on the Broncos, put in a bid for both of them. My personal one that I like, that I would rather have is going to be Tim Patrick. And I've been getting a lot of questions about Christian Kirk and Tim Patrick. I've been answering a lot of those over the last, I don't know, maybe 20 hours or so. Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough. But this is why we're here for the waivers. And also don't forget, because it's a right answer for someone does not mean it's going to be the right answer for you. This is all about making sure that your roster is at its best, not necessarily what everyone else thinks is going to be the best. So that's why if you really need somebody that's going to give you a safer floor here, Patrick for me. If you have needs to have a high upside, let's say, you're in one of those situations where you need a home run hitter as opposed to safety, KJ Hamler might be someone that you want to focus on, but it just depends on what your roster looks like.
Yeah, and I would, for your point about the home run, I would take Kirk over Hamler as well. As we kind of as a community had like reticent, given up on Christian Kirk. Well, I guess it's not happening.
Oh, I did reticently. I did. I was like, see ya. And then week 1, I was like, oh, my bad. But it's week 1, so I don't know if that's true or not. So we'll see.
Well, the biggest thing is it's exciting to see, but the snaps still need to come up. It was just barely over half of what AJ Green had. So if he pushes AJ Green, finally it's here, similar like Corey Davis and Devontae Parker. It just took years. We finally got there, but be a little bit patient on this. I will say, I talked about him in the waiver column last week. I always keep saying I tried to tell you, or the ones I don't know what left to say, and that's why I tried to tell you, so you either want them or you don't. I explained that to you last week and everybody watching. But I did double down on one and said still Sterling Shepard. If you needed any more proof, just go get Sterling Shepard. I would take Shepard over Patrick and Hamler and Kirk and the Ravens wide receivers. And why don't people want Sterling Shepard?
Because Daniel Jones. I think that's why. Because when they think of Giants offense, they think yuck. Oh, the absolute mystique. Yeah, that's the word I want to think of when I think of Daniel Jones. Mystique is the first word that pops into my head. No, it's grody. It's garbage. You don't think of sexy when you think of offenses, but Sterling Shepard has been that guy, and he is the security blanket for Daniel Jones, who typically does not really do well at short passing, but he's working on that with Sterling Shepard, who is the primary beneficiary of all of that. Freak out, dump off. I mean, that's what's going to happen, and that's what Daniel Jones does. So Kenny Golladay is that field stretcher contested catch guy. Sterling Shepard is it. I mean, in PPR, come on, man. No, I love Sterling Shepard. I've loved him for years. And I think the mediocrity of Daniel Jones in the offense only helps Sterling Shepard.
All right, so let me get to this next one. I'll get back to some of your questions. You can keep dropping them in there and get to as many as possible, kind of trying to tie them into players I'm already planning to talk about. But I brought up the Ravens. And in the waiver column, Lauren, I mentioned Marquise Brown, but I didn't mention Sammy Watkins. And now, if this is your first year playing fantasy, you might not understand why. I'm not trying to talk down to...
I know exactly where you're going with this.
That's why. And I'm not trying to talk down to anybody. I'm not trying to be like, you're stupid. You don't know this. But what it is, it's not just the week 1 jokes that we make in the fantasy community about Sammy Watkins shows up week 1 and then never again. Because it's not always week 1. It's been week 1 and week 13. It's been week 1 and week 5 and then week 17, even though people aren't playing. But that's the point about Sammy Watkins. At this point of his career, for the past 3 seasons, it's been showing up 2 or 3 times, and that's it. And most often it happens in week 1, and that's where the joke came from, Lauren. So Are you Marquise Brown over Watkins? Even though Watkins had the better game, are you with me on this and that you would pick up Marquise? I was actually surprised Marquise Brown was out there as available as he is.
I was not surprised simply because he just disappointed so early in the season that I think everybody wrote him off. And then with then the shiny new toy was Rashad Bateman. He got hurt and they're like, we're just going to run the ball. I mean, so it doesn't surprise me that he was still out there floating around. But by far and away, it's Hollywood Brown. Please stay away from Sammy Watkins. If you want to enjoy football for the rest of the season and you want to enjoy playing fantasy football, just stay away from Sammy Watkins. And if he ends up blowing up and being consistent, that would be a shock. And you can blame me. I'll take all the blame for that if you want me to.
So for people that might not know, from week 12 through the playoff games, both playoff games, Marquise Brown had double-digit scores in every single one of those games. So
he sucked earlier. So
yes, no.
like, no,
I don't disagree with you. He went in a giant lull. It was like 5 or 6 weeks long, but he wasn't as up and down week to week as people would think with Marquise Brown, like a Deshaun Jackson. It was actually, he just really stunk for a while and then kind of came back. And I'm not saying to expect that and expect top 30 the rest of the way, but if you give, basically this is the thing that I've always said about Marquise Brown his entire career. If you give me Marquise Brown as my wide receiver 4, every single time, because he's my wide receiver 4, I want 15 or 2 because I want that 15 upside. So yeah, there you go. The backfield. Let's talk about the backfield.
Well, let me ask you a question here.
No.
Marquise Brown or KJ Hamler?
Marquise Brown.
Okay, me too.
Marquise Brown is in the I tried to tell you. If I'm shooting for long term, I don't have to deal with this upside, and you're just bench stashing as a 5th or 6th wide receiver, then maybe Hamler. Because let's be honest, he doesn't get turned around on that touchdown and actually catches it, and people are going bananas for him on waivers because he would have had 100 some odd yards and a touchdown, and everybody would be going nuts about him, and Patrick would even be mentioned. But let's talk about the backfield because Tyson Williams, we have a situation. This is Tuesday. We're probably going to get clarity, hopefully by the ranking show tomorrow, if not by Thursday. But let's assume for this case, Lauren, that Tyson Williams is okay. He got knocked in the helmet, didn't get back on that field the entire last drive or overtime. So there's the potential injury concern with Williams. But up until that point, Williams, if you're watching the game, definitively looked better than, I mean, it wasn't even close than Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray wasn't even averaging 3 yards per carry. And there's no question that Latavius Murray still looked like the slow version of Murray we saw with the Saints this preseason. But Latavius Murray is the vet. Latavius Murray was getting some opportunities. Are you still, if healthy, are you still 100% in on Williams, or do you think this is going to potentially turn into a Lions situation, or like even worse, the Arizona where it's a 50-50 down the middle?
Ooh, okay. I'm going to try to touch on all of those. Yes, I'm still all in on Tyson Williams. I do really like him. Yes, I do believe that it's going to possibly be a timeshare. Hello, this is the Baltimore Ravens. This is what they do. I'm also not necessarily worried too much about what his competition is going to be. I think he will see a majority of the looks, but not all of the touches, because there is Le'Veon Bell, who's still on the practice squad. Devonta Freeman is on the practice squad. We have Latavius Murray. So there are a lot of things going on right here. Now, do I think the best out of all of them is Williams? I do. Do I think he's going to get a majority of them? I do, but we're talking like maybe 51% to 49%.
Well,
want to clarify just
50
a little bit.
would still be the majority if you're including everybody else involved.
That is true, but I wanted to be as non-math oriented as possible and make it more complicated by saying 51-49. At least I added correctly.
Or we could say like 51%,
right?
And the other 49% is 80% Latavius and 20%. Like, how do we do that to really make it like, and then just make your head spin with that little?
I just blacked out what happened.
Exactly.
I don't do math.
So let's talk the other running backs, and then I'll get some questions before we come back to wide receivers. I put all these guys together: Tony Jones, Damian Williams, Kenneth Gainwell, Carlos Hyde. What do they have in common? They're all backup in different versions. Tony Jones looks like he could have even more standalone value than Latavius Murray, mostly because of what that team looks like right now. Damian Williams, for everybody asking, this is why I kept beating this, like the drum for it. I don't know how many more times. And again, it may sound like a victory lap, but I was saying Damian Williams is a bigger threat to David Montgomery than Tariq Cohen ever was because of what we just saw. He's good on all 3 downs, just like David Montgomery. I'm not saying I don't like David Montgomery as a top 20 running back, but that's why I wanted wanted Damian Williams in a lot of places, especially if anything were to happen to Montgomery. Gainwell looked great. I was surprised. Like, Boston Scott looked good this entire preseason, and all of a sudden, nothing of Boston Scott in week 1. It's all Gainwell. He gets the touchdown. Then Carlos Hyde. Urban Meyer hates James Robinson. He hates football apparently now too. Apparently he's already thinking about going back to college.
Heart's not in it.
Yeah, Jones, Dame, Gainwell, and Hyde. How would you rank those in your priority to go pick up these backups?
Again, this is going to be a situational thing that we're talking about.
I want your overall. I know it's situational, but I want your overall.
Fine. I'm going to do Gainwell, and then I'm going to do
Number
Tony
1.
Jones, Damian Williams, and then Carlos Hyde.
Okay, so why Gainwell number 1 then? How about that?
I'm so glad you asked there, Jake, because this is going to be situational. So can I finish that thought right there real quick? So, all right, I like Kenneth Gainwell a lot, and Nick Sirianni kind of let it slip in an interview or maybe a press conference it was that he had when he referred to his running backs as Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, and then he stumbled over the name Boston Scott. So to me, that said that good old Kenny and he were besties and that he was likely going to be usurping that Boston Scott role, which it looks like he did. And they probably want to just keep him fresh for week 1. That's why they used Boston Scott in preseason. So it doesn't surprise me at all. So good old Kenny Gainwell, I'm doing that Friends quotes thing again because we did this last time and I'm very upset that I'm doing it again, but here I am still doing it.
Sorry.
But I think that he's going to be I think he's going to be a pretty decent flex option depending on the matchup. So for me, if I want a running back that is going to give me value outside of being simply an insurance policy, handcuff, however you want to refer to it, I'm going to go Kenneth Gainwell. But if I don't need to have that kind of a player as running back, and however you want to look at it, then Tony Jones would be the option I would go for. But I think Kenny has the most opportunity to score points over those guys, and he has the lesser path of resistance to becoming an RB1 for the Eagles.
That's certainly fair. Yeah, for the most upside, I'm going back to Dame time, just like in the NBA.
Of course you are. You're like married. It's so cute.
Well, no, it really comes down to if you tell me, like, let's put it this way. No, this is why Kamara gets hurt.
Blender.
Kamara gets hurt. Montgomery gets hurt. Miles Sanders gets hurt, and James Robinson gets hurt. All of them are like Dame, in my opinion, of all those 4 would be the one that's in the RB1 conversation because
at least
we've
you
seen
didn't call
it
him
before.
Broad, and you're just calling him Dame. I feel like I'm in the 20s, so where's my flapper dress and really
Speaking of like 80s, we're both. So mine's actually Supernatural crossed over with Scooby Doo for anybody that was a fan of the Supernatural show, which I'm glad they're bringing back like a spinoff. Because I missed.
Are
that
they
show,
really?
So yeah.
Oh my God, stop it! Because
It's,
one of them is
it's
Walker,
actually
Texas
being
Ranger,
produced
so...
by Jensen Ackles. He is on board as one of the. You didn't see this? Sidebar, real quick, everybody out there. So, what's his face? Oh, the other's name. Why can't I'm having a blank on the other's name? Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki. Padalecki actually made a joke on Twitter that he got like, "Thanks for letting me know."
Texas Ranger.
Yeah, but
No?
he didn't.
Yeah.
But he did. He only found out through the media that they were doing a Supernatural spinoff with Jensen Ackles as like director / producer, and he seemed kind of jokey upset, but like that underlying like, hey, there's some truth to the being upsetness there.
I need to look at this. I love
everybody go look. By the way, Supernatural, one of the best shows of all time.
It's
all
awesome.
Right. I'll hit. So before we sit wide receivers, let me do some of these. Should I be worried about Najee Harris? Not at all. Of all running backs in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey included, there was one running back who never left the field. It was Najee Harris.
He played every single offensive snap. Every single
100%. 55 out of 55 or 58 out of 50. There's depending on what site you're on. Some include like penalties and stuff like that. So whatever it was, the dude didn't lead the field. Period. So Najee Harris, go buy low everywhere. Volume.
Yes.
How do I? Oh, same person. Regina actually asked both of these questions. So congrats, Regina. You get 2 questions. How do you feel about Antonio Brown? The same way as I did preseason. Yeah, you put the heart up, so this is interesting. Same way I did preseason, as I was saying, definitely draft him as a wide receiver 3. But here's why. Because if I have Antonio Brown on my team right now, Lauren, I'm immediately selling high. Because people are acting like he's top 15. And I don't think there's a non-zero chance he's better than Mike Evans in fantasy this year. I think that's possible. But if you told me the odds, 15%, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm way off on that, and you want to tell me I'm wrong. But I would still say pecking order is Godwin, Evans, Antonio Brown, just as I had him in the preseason, just as I have him today. But because of the love for Antonio Brown, I'm flipping him if I can get a fringe wide receiver 1 value. That granted, Well, hold on. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to do that. I know you're about to answer your question, but like, I know there's people out there that are like, not in my league. I understand that. That doesn't mean every single league. But I've also seen trades already of Ezekiel Elliott going for wide receiver 3s because people overreact in a lot of leagues. So it's at least worth trying.
I give his percentage of finishing as a top 15 a little bit higher than that. Let's make a bet on it, Jake. Let's do it. I think he will finish in the top 15.
But how definitively are you saying top 15?
What do you mean how definitively? As in he will finish as a wide receiver 15 or better.
Okay, well, no, because I'm trying to think. So then Cooper Kupp or Antonio Brown? Okay, good. You hesitated. I'll take Cooper Kupp. You can take Antonio Brown.
Okay, because I have Cooper Kupp in many leagues, so it's kind of like it took me by surprise. But here's why I say this.
I was trying to think of a 15-ish wide receiver, and I think Cooper Kupp's the perfect 15-ish wide receiver.
Okay, I mean, yeah, sure, but you probably have both, considering that you drafted Antonio Brown super duper duper late.
No,
so
but
you're
you just want to talk about Antonio. Yeah, so anyway,
I do want to talk about Antonio Brown, so thank you very much. Okay, so the thing about Antonio Brown that I loved so much is you're right. The pecking order may very well be in terms of talent. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. In terms of targets, I don't necessarily think I agree. Mike Evans is going to be that field stretcher. He's going to be that go-to home run. I think it's going to be Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans in that order. And the reason I say this is because when you look back at last year, Antonio Brown came in, I think the very beginning of November, he was on a brand new team, just got signed with a brand new quarterback in a brand new team himself. And there was a lot of nebulous stuff going around there. A lot of brand news. I mean, things are shiny. When they're shiny and sparkly, we want to talk about them, right? So now that it's not all shiny and brand new, and we are talking about Super Bowl champs, they're, coming into their defending champ season, whatever you want to call it. If we would do the statting out, the quotes again, for anyone not watching this, I'm quoting again, and I hate myself for this. I can't. I'm a very talkative person with my hands. Anyway, if we would go ahead and stat out his entire season last year, just based on how well he performed when he was signed, he would have finished in PPR as a wide receiver, I think 11 or 12, and right around I think Allen Robinson, he would have finished. So there is a lot going for Antonio Brown that I really like. So the fact that he was such a great snack super late in drafts, I absolutely loved. So I'm giving him a lot of attention. Now, what you said about possibly trading him because he is so high right now, if you have needs at other positions, absolutely, because Antonio Brown is really good. So I would go ahead and trade him if you have no need at wide receiver and you're not really sure if you're going to be able to plug him into your lineup because he's just going to be wasting precious roster and bench space sitting there and not getting played every single week.
Okay.
That was a diatribe. Thank you for listening.
No, but yeah, you made your case for Antonio Brown.
Should I mic drop and leave?
I mean, can. I don't like talking to myself, and everybody would probably tune out. So can we talk about ODU some more?
Absolutely.
Let's talk Zach Pascal, who, by the way, was in front of Paris Campbell.
Is it Pascal or is it Pascal?
It's Pascal. I just like saying Pascal.
Okay. I do too. I find myself
fancier.
saying Pascal. It does. Can we have a little pinky up when we take a sip? Pascal.
Exactly. There you go. Thank you. See, that's what. But anyway, so Zach Pascal, for anybody that's wondering, and Tyler Haneke, ODU representation. Yeah, we get that part of the show. Bring back Travis Fulgham to the active roster so we can do all three of them. But by the way, for Zach Pascal, so had him in front of Paris Campbell. Why? Because he was playing in front of Paris Campbell. I like Paris Campbell, the player. He still hadn't gotten past Pascal. That's a lot right there. Ooh. The interesting situation I have here is, Lauren, is people are like, should I be worried about Pittman and how aggressive should I be on Pascal? So again, not mutually exclusive situations, is that Pittman, bring Fulgham into the conversation. Now, Pittman is on another level than Fulgham, and I love Fulgham because he's from ODU, but I got to be realistic about players' talents. Pittman is on another level. Pittman's a better wide receiver than Fulgham is. That being said, Pittman like Callaway, Pittman like other receivers put in that position where they're not quite NFL alpha ones who can handle number one coverage. And if you watch that game, they went out there and they said, you know what? Pittman is the number one. We're going to focus on him. And it wasn't like triple coverage like Calvin Johnson, but it was, let's take away Pittman in the passing game and see what Carson Wentz has right now. And what Carson Wentz had was Pascal, who is better than people realize. But I will say this. it can be don't go crazy on Pascal, pick him up, but don't go crazy, but also buy low on Pittman because of the situation, because Pascal, I think, actually helps Pittman going forward because teams will realize we can't ignore him anymore.
I 100% agree with you here on every single front. Buy low on Michael Pittman. He's going to be a big play, explosive ceiling monster. I love Zach Pascal as well. I always have. I'm so glad that he did so well in week 1, and he is already developing that chemistry and rapport with Carson Wentz. Because if there's one thing about Carson Wentz, when he finds a receiver, he targets them. I mean, his bestie with Zach Ertz, I understand, is 2 completely different positions, but that is a trust factor. And Carson Wentz needs someone to trust in this offense on a new team in his redemption year. So for me, I'm higher on Zach Pascal because I think that chemistry is already building. I think that they have a connection, and I'm happy with that. It's kind of like that Sterling Shepard look to me is how I see Zach Pascal in this offense with Carson Wentz. Security blanket.
It is security blanket. Mr. Nice Guy. Hey, look, you're one of the most loyal, so I love you. Can we condense your question down just a little bit? Just no, because so I own Kelsey and Higbee, have Carson, but lost Gus Bus and Rojo. See, look, you're taking off our T-shirts from the look. So got an offer of Kelsey for Aaron Jones and Brandon Cooks, and you have Higbee. I got Diggs was, this, you know what? This is an interesting one, Lauren, in all intents and purposes here. He can trade away Kelsey for Aaron Jones and Brandon Cooks. Also, real quick, drop these if you want in the comment section of The Athletic, which, by the way, theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals, the first free month. Because
where'd it go? Tina, where'd it go? I'm lost.
I'll answer. Okay, it's fine. No, this is why. We're only helping you, Mr. Nice Guy, and we want to help everybody, but I say that to say nobody else is getting help from your trade question. That's what I'm just saying. So, Kelsey for Aaron Jones and Brandon Cooks. I lean yes because Aaron Jones is a first rounder. Kelsey's a first rounder. You're giving up that edge with Higbee. Brandon Cooks, I would try to push a little bit more than Brandon Cooks. Maybe get that like a Corey Davis, that second tier, or buy low on a Robert Woods for the concerns possibly there, something like that. But I'd push for a little bit more because of Kelsey. And you drafted Kelsey because you drafted Kelsey to get that edge at tight end. Don't immediately just give it up, even though you're getting Aaron Jones, right?
Yeah, I want to say no for that reason, because I don't think you're getting enough. So I think Aaron Jones is something a little bit more en fuego or caliente than Brandon Cooks. Yeah, on that one. I agree with you. Okay. Thank you, Tino.
I'm glad we're getting a couple questions. You don't have to put any up here, but a couple questions on the Raiders wide receivers, and I want to bring them in. So I initially had Christian Kirk, Nico Collins, Elijah Moore, Rondell Moore, both the Moores, and then those were going to be like, hey, these number 2/3s, interest there. But let's bring in the Raiders wide receivers to this too, because everybody knows I like Henry Ruggs. And I was so happy if you were watching the Manning broadcast, which I just saw breaking news that the Mariners are hosting the 2023 All-Star game. I thought it said Mannings at first. And I was like, what? The Mannings are doing baseball too? This is the greatest thing ever. But anyway, Eli Manning during the broadcast said, we got to get Ruggs involved. Also pointed out the fact that Ruggs is still struggling a little bit with his route running, which is still going to limit him. And the Raiders are trying to use him where he's excelling at. But Bryan Edwards, a little bit more of a complete wide receiver, but still more raw, just like Ruggs. So what it comes down to me, watching that game last night, Lauren, for the Raiders wide receivers, is it's Hunter Renfrow is their Cole Beasley and still underrated.
Thank you. I have been saying this, and I actually questioned my sanity, and I was thinking, does Hunter Renfrow still play for the Raiders? Why is nobody talking about him?
Sterling Shepard, Cole Beasley, they're all the same.
And those are necessary, and it's all like Henry Ruggs, it's all Bryan Edwards, and I'm like, get rid of both of them. Get Hunter Renfrow. What? Because the actual leading receiver on that team is going to be Darren Waller, and then right after that is Hunter Renfrow. And also, don't forget, you have Derek Carr throwing the football into the dirt, behind them, over their heads. So this is a situation, and athletes alone are able to make plays out of this. And it's not Bryan Edwards, and it's not Henry Ruggs consistently. If you want consistency, which we do in fantasy football, it is Darren Waller, obvi. You can't get him because he was probably really early in your draft. Hunter Renfrow, go get him. And every time I say his name, I feel like Astro from the Jetsons, Rutro Railroy. Go get Hunter Renfrow.
Man, there's a lot of cartoons like for your what show your T-shirt. I was trying to set you up.
Yeah, Rainbow Bright.
Yeah, so like all like these '80s ones where I barely saw like reruns when I was homesick from school. So I missed a lot. Right? Like I barely even watched Scooby Doo. I don't even know most of what's on that one. I love
90s. How he tried to shame me, everybody, and I was like, oh hey Scooby Doo, because I couldn't see the two tiny little characters in there that were the supernatural
here.
crossover. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, look, cartoon shirts, trying to be nice with my new coworker and enjoying a lovely Tuesday morning. And he didn't. He was like, yeah, hey, good morning. No, it's not a supernatural crossover. Blah, 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 blah. Now you want to talk
Okay.
about my t-shirt? Move on.
I was trying
That
to
was
get you to
very
represent
mean
for
of
you.
me.
It was.
Very mean of
So
me. I'm sorry, my friend.
speaking of mean, how about that for a transition?
I love it. Segue. Woo.
Kyle Shanahan talking about Brandon Ayuk. I mean, good grief. Like, this was an easy decision. Trent Sherfield outplayed. Like, I don't know if he's trying to motivate Brandon Ayuk. I don't know. It's like, I'm going this route, Lauren, and maybe I'm crazy. Maybe we're going to have 5 weeks from now, and Ayuk is still the wide receiver 3. Everybody's going to be like, Jake, you're an idiot. Why do you do this for a living? But when it comes to Shanahan, we already don't trust him. I also don't trust any world. I don't want to live in a world where you're going to tell me that Sherfield is the better talent than Brandon Ayuk. I don't believe that's that's an alternate universe that we're watching in the Marvel movies. That's not a thing. Brandon Ayuk just isn't 100% correct. This isn't actually really Trent Sherfield, right?
I can't be, because if it is, then you and I are going to we'll just open up a big La Brea sinkhole and go jump into that where Brandon Ayuk is the real better wide receiver, because that is fantasy land craziness. Yeah, he was banged up, you guys. He had a hamstring issue. And I think it is more like Kyle Shanahan being like, light a fire under his tuchus. I don't know, but that's just no, Trent Sherfield. Don't make this a thing. Ugh.
Coaches lie all the time anyway. The only one that ever, Pete Carroll just straight up tells you.
Truth.
No, Pete Carroll is just straight up like, yeah, I like this guy, but he doesn't do good. Like, it's just, he'll tell you. It just doesn't ever really work out a lot of times. Last couple things before we get out of here. Really deep down the list for anybody. Van Jefferson and KJ Osborne. Any interest in and Cedric Wilson, all 3 of them, because they're all number 3s.
No. Don't do it. Don't do it. Stay away.
Okay. Here's some. Worry level. So I do a piece in the waiver column every single week, and I use ducks to 1 to 5. 1 duck being very little to no worry, 5 being very worried because it's DuckTales. So I want to include ducks somehow. So 1 to 5, how many ducks? I'm going to rattle through these. Your worry level on these. Saquon Barkley, 1 to 5 ducks. How worried about Saquon Barkley are you?
1.
Okay. We already hit Najee Harris. We know that. Najee Harris is like a -1, right? Like,
yeah, he's a no.
Pay me a duck. Yeah.
He's a goose. So go.
Ezekiel Elliott, 1 to 5 ducks after week 1.
2.
I went with 2. Here's why I went with 2, is because I like on the field a lot. The pass blocking, they needed him, which is, you could argue, be like, all right, better games are coming. But at the same time, if they're that worried about their offensive line, anytime they're facing a team like the Bucs, means he might be blocking some more and fewer touches. That's why I gave him a 2.
Yeah, the 2 for me here is the increased usage of Tony Pollard and the fact that they were only 1 yard shy in total touches, which were, kind of similar, but they both had just over 30 yards each. So I'm wondering how often the Cowboys are going to be utilizing this idea of keeping Tony Pollard in there to keep Zeke healthy for an extended season. So there's where my 2 came from.
Okay. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 1 to 5.
1.
Yeah. 1 snap. One touch for Darrell Williams. Like, this is what we wanted for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Please. How about this one? I have a feeling, I'm guessing 4, if not 5. James Robinson.
Ugh. Oh, 4. Oh God. I want to will it into existence that it's only a 3, but I need to be honest here. It's a 4 right now. Hopefully Urban Meyer decides that he wants to go coach the Trojans, USC, because lots of rumors went a swirling about.
Around,
after that. So if he gets out of there, then my worry for James Robinson will no longer be there. But right now it's about a 3 or a 4. It's like a 3.5 duck. It's like
I give
Christmas
it a full
duck.
4 until Urban Meyer is gone. All right, Marquez Callaway.
Oh, geez, no. You have to have expectations when it comes to Marquez Callaway, which is what we've been saying. He's a downfield boom or bust threat. My worry here is a 1. Don't worry about it, but you had to have drafted him or picked him up with
1
those
if you understand.
expectations.
Yes, if you had the proper expectations, is a 1. If not,
and if you don't, he's a full 5. Then that's on you. And that is on you for not listening to anybody.
How about this one? So I'm going to start this off with first, hey, remember when Jamar Chase couldn't catch footballs? Say, worry level 1 to 5 on Tyler Boyd.
Ooh, I'm at 3 with Tyler Boyd.
I think, and I said the same thing. I said this goes back to what we were saying 2 months ago, is that with drafting Jamar Chase back when they did at the end of April, is that Chase and Higgins could easily be the 1-2, and now Boyd is the odd man out. Granted,
Sucks.
used similar to Michael Gallup, but in a different way. I'm not saying he's the same. Michael Gallup's bigger touchdowns, bigger downfield. Boyd's over. I'm saying that third option in the offense.
Yes.
So I'm with you on the 3. Before we get out of here, real quick, people ask about drops too, and I always want to touch on some of these of whether or not you would drop them. Mecole Hardman, I'm not. I'm surprised that a lot of people want to drop Mecole Hardman because here's the thing. Yes, it was 3 and limited, but he was on the field for 1 or 2 fewer snaps than Demarcus Robinson, which is a really good thing in my opinion.
I agree. Hold on Mecole Hardman.
Okay. Damian Williams not dropping, but what about Darrell Williams because of that 1 carry? If you need a roster pickup, are you dropping Williams? Because Williams looks to be the next man up if something happens to Edwards-Helaire, but again, 1 touch in that game.
No, I have no problem dropping him. Again,
Okay.
You said the biggest thing there is a roadblock to any kind of production. He's wasting a bench spot. If you need somebody to fill in, go ahead. Get rid of him. You can cry a little bit, though.
We already touched on him, so you would not drop Michael Pittman. Overreaction. Oh, here's a quick one. This is interesting. This is the last one before we get out of here. If I didn't get to any of your questions, again, feel free. You can actually at Stepmom Lauren. Go check out all our work, by the way, as a reminder. theathletic.com/BetsTV, all caps. First free month, you can drop the question in the waiver column, and I'll get to those because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, 1,000 questions. I get to all of them. The last one before we get out of here. Mike Gesicki, drop him. And I say if he's your second tight end, absolutely, and here's why, Lauren, is because I kept saying this entire offseason that he saw one of the top 3 slot works for tight ends, top 5 opportunity share, and still only had 5 double-digit scores, still barely checked in as a top 10 tight end. And Jalen Waddle in week 1, I was like, all right, maybe Gesicki can still be a tight end 1. Let's give him a pass because there's no Will Fuller. Which, by the way, if Will Fuller's sitting there on the waiver wire, I don't know why. I don't know what leagues that didn't draft Will Fuller just because he was suspended with week 1. He's all the way at the top of the list with along Sterling Shepard. I know he's going to be inconsistent, but he should not be sitting out there. But anyway, Gesicki, he's done. He had his 1 opportunity, and now with all 3 of those wideouts there, and again, Waddle manipulating, he spent 70+% of the time in the slot. Gesicki, I have a feeling, is just done.
Yeah, if you're hanging on to Gesicki, with a hope and a prayer, to just drop them, no. Get rid of him. But if he's your only tight end, you need to make some moves.
He was dealing with Durham Smythe taking away snaps and opportunities. What was going on there? All right. Make sure you check out Lauren. I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Again, Monday, 10 a.m. recap with Meanie. Tuesdays are these. We're going to be talking waivers the rest of the season with Lauren on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. And again, 2 p.m. Eastern with Jeff tomorrow to talk ranks. I saw 2 ranks questions pop in there. We'll talk about your lineups, all that type of stuff tomorrow. Thumbs up, please. 5 stars, please. I have to stop saying please every single week. And
you do not have to stop saying please. Oh my gosh. Everyone, thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for your thumbs up. Please spread the love a little more.
And as Lauren misunderstood me, most people do. I just meant that I don't have to keep begging. I do appreciate everyone, even though Lauren doesn't think I do. We'll see you tomorrow.